What an honor, friends and Scouters, ladies and gentlemen, to address you this morning. I appreciate with you the wonderful, wonderful work of Paul Moffat and his committee in preparing this enormous breakfast and perpetuating this tradition that we've all come to love so much. Of course, in that we extend our greetings and best wishes to our distinguished colleagues with whom I sat this morning, Dr. Robert Gates, Tico Perez, and Mike Serbaugh, for all they do. Their talents and commitments are exemplary, and I cherish very much the personal friendship. But on behalf of all of us, I want to thank Tico Perez for his stunning devotion to the Boy Scouts of America. Tico, would you just stand for a second? I know, and we all know, and Tico knows, that assignments can and do change for all of us. But Tico has been a wonderful, wonderful friend, not only to Scouting, but to me personally. And we will miss you dearly, Tico. I thank you for everything you've done for this organization and for boys throughout the world. In the same breath, we welcome my friend Charles Dahlquist to his new service. On difficult days, I'm sure, Charles, that you will miss Tico most of all. Charles, would you stand, please? This is a unique gathering. Here we are, hundreds of men and women from a variety of backgrounds and cultures, to say nothing of varied faith traditions, gathered to talk about our collective duty to God. In a day when some people are using religious faith to divide the human family, this little gathering is a bold declaration that commitment to deity can and should be a powerful uniting force in this world. Furthermore, you are evidence that faith in God is not weaker, thinner, or less relevant in the public life. In the hearts and souls of dedicated people like you, I sense the duty to God has never been stronger or more evident. It is truly, truly an honor for me to be counted with you this morning. Of course, it's not just our commitment to God that brings us together this morning. We're also drawn here by our commitment to the boys and young men we serve. We feel bound not only to our duty to God, but also by their duty to Him. My assignment as a leader in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints takes me literally around the world. I am back from Brazil just 29 hours or something. I meet and minister to young men and their families from all walks of life. I'm constantly amazed by the capacity and potential of this generation of young people. Some of the challenges they face are unprecedented in history. When you and I were their age, if we wanted to get into trouble, we usually had to go looking for it. And in my case, growing up in rural St. George, Utah, well, let's just say that trouble was pretty much a long bicycle ride away in any direction. Today's challenges are different from yesterday's, if not in kind, then certainly in intensity, frequency, and availability. Modern technologies make life more comfortable, but they also bring moral and spiritual dangers that can easily distract a young man from his duty to God. I echo C.S. Lewis, who said, "There is no neutral ground in the universe. Every square inch, every split second is claimed by God and counterclaimed by Satan." I believe that statement to be absolutely true, and no such claiming and counterclaiming anywhere is more crucial and conspicuous than that being waged for the morals and the minds, the personal purity and the future potential of the young. The battle grows more intense by the day. So our youth make their entrance onto the stage of history during a harrowing scene, when for some, happily ever after may seem a little Pollyannish. But I'm just simple enough to believe that the great director of this sweeping drama knew exactly whom to cast for this critical scene and knows precisely how to direct it. He matched the actors to the action and sent some of his finest children to this day and to this time. He has a work for them to do, a duty, if you will, for them to fulfill. And not coincidentally, he sent many of them within the sphere of influence of dedicated mentors and leaders like you. Perhaps verbal oaths today don't carry quite the same weight they used to, but something still stirs inside of me when I hear a young man say, "On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God." You and I can help young men understand that when they start a sentence with the phrase, "on my honor," they better mean whatever it is they're going to say next. An oath is a personal commitment, a personal vow, a promise to others and to the world that we will not yield, we will not shrink, we will not fail. I think it's wonderful that this eloquent oath is recited at the beginning of every patrol meeting, court of honor, campfire ceremony throughout the Boy Scouts of America landscape. But as these words are repeated so frequently, I hope they never become casual or commonplace. Perhaps all that is necessary to avoid this is an occasional reminder of what it means to actually do one's duty to God. Individually, you will each know the best way to help the young men you serve. Some examples will be moments of worship in a church or a synagogue or a mosque. Other examples will be in more private religious practice. But some examples will be in showing our religious belief through kindness, compassion, and merciful service to others. The idea that we would rather see a sermon than hear one any day. If it is useful to you, let me share a brief real-life example that for me vividly illustrate the words, "On my honor, I will do my duty to God," as boys offered kindness and compassion to a fellow scout.
I was born with spina bifida, which is a birth defect that affects the spine.
He's had quite a few surgeries. You know, we would do things in the hopes that it would improve his quality of life.
As we looked at his scouting situation, the idea of taking him hiking, backpacking, and backcountry camping was a little bit daunting.
I really wanted to participate in the hikes and the camping, and I knew it was going to be very hard because it can be hard to walk.
Hang in there, Mitch. We issued a challenge to the young men. I challenged them to come up with a way that we could take Mitch with us, that he could do whatever we did.
Our bishop had brought up the concern of how we were gonna get Mitch to be able to come on these trips with us, and whether that was carrying him or any other way. We just wanted to make sure Mitch was with us.
Jonathan and his dad Curtis got together, and one thing led to another, and the Mitchmobile was born, and it was wonderful.
We went over to the Fenimore's house, and we actually spoke with Mitch's mom about it. And I just remember the joy that came over her knowing that we were able to include her son.
Smile, Mitch.
When I first found out about the Mitchmobile, I was very overwhelmed with gratitude and that they were willing to do everything they could to help me participate.
From day one, before this ever happened, he was worried about being a burden. But as it progressed, I think he saw the blessings that it was to the others, and I think he was actually surprised by how much everybody wanted to help.
I learned to accept it, and I wouldn't have it any other way, because it truly did bring us together, and I'm grateful for their willingness to bring me and to serve me constantly.
I think he wishes that he could have been the one to carry somebody else in the Mitchmobile. But he learned a very valuable lesson as to what it means to allow other people to serve us. And if we don't allow that to happen to us, then how can others experience that wonderful blessing and opportunity?
Well, I think that was the goal from the beginning, was to teach them that duty to God had to translate into real actions, the daily things that we did.
Our duty to God is a change of heart. It's a lifelong experience. It's becoming more like our Savior.
So as we looked at this challenge, we realized that we needed our young men involved, that we needed them to see the vision of what we could accomplish. And when you do that, the whole program is lifted. Every young man is lifted.
To know the love that those boys have for Mitch, to continue to include him and keep him involved was one of the most Christ-like things I've ever seen in my life.
I'd like you to meet the original cast. I'd like you to meet the original cast of the Mitch Mobile production. That's great. Okay. Thanks. Thank you. That's good. Thank you. This is Mitch Fenimore, and don't get any big ideas. He's already patented this thing, so all the entrepreneurs can restrain themselves out there. Mitch and Jonathan, it was his Eagle project, Jonathan Knudsen, whose project it was to create this in the first place. You saw him on the screen. And friend and colleague from that troupe, Sean Barnes, who is from Bountiful. All three of these young men are from the same troupe originally, obviously. And now the point that I'd kind of like to make is that it was not just duty to God then, coming on a decade ago, but they are still participating in their duty to God. Mitch is currently serving on his mission in Salt Lake City in the Family History Mission, and Sean is serving here in San Diego locally, and Jonathan is just back from Brussels. All three continuing to show their duty to God. I'd invite these three to just say a word to this congregation about this lifelong commitment to your Father in heaven. Mitch, do you want to say a word?
So I would say that the duty to God is not just a booklet or a thing that you fill out. Though I've completed that, I'm still doing my duty to God, and my mission right now is right now my duty to God.
Thanks, Mitch. Jonathan?
As Mitch said, it's not just that booklet. It is continuing on through the rest of your life. It is a lifelong work. And one of the greatest opportunities I had, as Elder Holland mentioned, is I was able to serve a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the Belgium, Netherlands mission, able to share the gospel of Jesus Christ with the wonderful people over there. And it's just a wonderful experience to be able to continue on and help people realize that there is a duty to God and that we're able to share that message with everyone.
Thanks, Jonathan. Sean?
As I'm here serving my mission in San Diego, not only helping people come closer to Christ and to God, but duty to God to me is truly through the people we serve as well, not just God, but lifelong service to our friends and our neighbors, and even those that we meet on the street.
Thanks, Sean. Thank you. Proud of you. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks, Mitch. Proud of you. Thanks, Jonathan. We'll excuse the team. A wonderful little visual reminder of how long-lasting what you do for young men will remain, and how much we hope and pray that it will continue in their lives. Well, duty to God is not a project. It's not an event. It's not an item on a list of requirements. It is not simply a catchy slogan. There's no box that one can check to indicate that he is now fully and completely succeeded in his duty to God. In short, it is not just something we do, it is who we are. Or perhaps more accurately stated, it is who we are becoming. It's the core of our very identity. It defines us and affects every part of our lives, or should do so. Throughout life, we will all fill many different roles and hold many different titles. As you saw on the screen, in my life, I've done everything from deliver daily newspapers to selling skis in a sporting goods store to being a university president. But through it all, I would like to think that the one thing that has always been constant in my life has been my love of God and the duty that I feel toward Him. That sense of duty has deepened over the years, growing as my blessings and greater understanding of God's goodness has also grown. The debt I feel I owe Him is not something I can turn on or off or see as a matter of convenience. It's not a cloak that I put on Sunday morning and take off Sunday night. It is always with me, and I pray it always will be. Our duty to God should never be at the mercy of or compromised by anything else that confronts us. Latter-day Saints are familiar with these words spoken to and about people who were going to make their own commitment to divine duty. I quote, "You are to stand as witnesses of God at all times and in all things and in all places that you may be in, even until death." As the Savior Jesus Christ said to that same group, "What manner of men ought ye to be? Verily I say unto you, even as I am." I love this painting by Arnold Freeberg, a recently deceased member of our congregation. You know it well. It's titled "The Prayer at Valley Forge." Of course, it depicts General George Washington kneeling in the snow at Valley Forge, seeking heaven's help before heading into a crucial battle. But sometimes when I look at that painting, I don't see George Washington. Instead, I see a lot of young men I know. And I don't see Valley Forge necessarily. I see the halls of a junior high school, or an underprivileged neighborhood, or even an inner moral conflict that in its sphere may be just as challenging and ultimately just as pivotal as any Valley Forge battle. And I'm reminded that part of my duty to God and yours is to help these young men know that they can turn to the Almighty for help and strength and power. We need to believe and promise them in our belief that God will deliver them just as surely as He delivered George Washington and his ragtag assemblage of cold, weary, untrained soldiers. Now, such boys might not always seem like George Washington's to you, but I'm confident there were days when young George did not seem much like George Washington either. But I encourage you to see them not as they are today, but as they can be. We all need to be viewed with the eyes of faith on what we can become, not necessarily what we happen to be at the moment. True for boys, true for us. By and large, our youth are wonderful, wonderful young people. They're courageous, strong, and anxious to do the right thing. They're seeking for good and strong examples of those who do exemplify duty to God. Let us strengthen their faith by living true to our own. If there is anything this generation is demanding, it is transparency, genuineness, and integrity. One of our past church leaders, Apostle Harold B. Lee, put it this way, and I quote, "You cannot lift another soul until you're standing on higher ground than he is. You must be sure, if you would rescue the man, that you yourself are setting the example of what you would have him be. You cannot light a fire in another soul unless it's burning somewhere in your own." If we want the next generation to fulfill their duty to God, the best thing we can do is be true to our own pledge to do so. My dear friends, the young people we serve take their flight into the future with our thrust and our aim. And even as we anxiously watch that arrow in flight, and we know all the evils that can deflect its course after it's left our hand, nevertheless, we take courage in remembering that the most important mortal factor in determining that arrow's destination will be the stability, strength, and unwavering certainty of the holder of the bow. In the most difficult and discouraging days of World War II, Winston Churchill said to the people of England, "To every man there comes that special moment when he is tapped on the shoulder and offered the chance to do a special thing unique to him and fitted to his talent. What a tragedy if that moment finds him unprepared or unqualified for the work which would have been his finest hour." With all the energy and love of our youth that I have, I testify that our sacred charge and divine responsibility is to love God and love our neighbor also. Included on that list of neighbors are these precious young men that we serve. Helping them grow into men of integrity and rectitude is our solemn duty, an oath we declare with the angels of heaven as our witnesses. May God bless us all to live so on our honor. Thank you for listening.